Good Tuesday afternoon. My name is Dr. Willie Miles. I'm the president of Dr. Willie Miles Children's Foundation located in Atlanta, Georgia. A little about the agency. We are a 501c3 organization whose mission is to make children our priority, not only in Atlanta, but throughout the world. I do want to share that we are very excited about tonight's topic, but before we get into that, we're going to wait for the co-host to sign on, Jackie Clements out of Florida. I do want to share that the weather here is kind of cold here in Atlanta. We have 30-degree weather this morning. I thought I was back in the days of Mississippi. 30 degrees and ice was on the car, and I'm saying, what is happening? But what's amazing this afternoon, we're in the high 50s, well, the low 50s, but it's still kind of cold outside. But again, I keep saying, I'm just getting old, my bones stay cold. But again, I'm just glad to be on this side of the ground at any rate. So I hope that all of you are doing well, especially our Instagram followers and our Facebook Live followers. We're just very excited that you all join us every week, religiously. So we're very proud of you all. I want to thank you. And we don't take your viewing us for granted because you could be spending an hour anywhere else listening to other folk, but you're choosing to be with us. And we're just hoping that the information we're sharing is informative to you and that it's helping you get through whatever you're going through with your family. Again, our focus has been on children, so we're hoping that parents are able to get information that is helpful to them as you begin to parent. Not just begin to parent, but as you continue to parent. So at this point, I do want to say that it is focus almost Christmas time. Can you believe that? Days it is Christmas. It was just January a couple of days ago, and here we are now about to celebrate another Christmas. But how many of you all can think back where you were last year this time, and in the midst of COVID and trying to celebrate Christmas, not sure what to do? Hi, Jackie. I'm glad you're on.
Good evening, Dr. Miles. Happy to be here.
We're sort of reflecting back on where we were last year this time. And I know I wasn't thinking about seeing nobody buying no gifts or having anything.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. But it's kind of amazing the miraculousness of medication. And I have to say, the miracles of God. It's just amazing that some of us still here. And I'm very thankful for that. But last year, this time was sort of like isolated. And this year, we are at least doing some minimal kinds of gatherings, 10 or less.
We are very nice to have that option this year,
yeah.
Right? Even though we're kind of threatened with another one, but we're working on it.
Right. Check. I was telling our audience that here in Atlanta this morning it was 32 degrees.
Oh my!
And then this afternoon, people putting on shorts.
Wow. That's going to lead to a lot of colds as well.
And you tell me climate change doesn't have anything to do with this, but that's political. It's another story, but it's about life.
Yeah, that's amazing. So 32 to short weather, huh?
Yeah, it's like 58 degrees, but it's kind of warm. The sun was shining on both sides of the street, as my folk would say back in Mississippi, on both sides of the street. And it's just a beautiful day.
That's nice.
I'm still sort of like marveling at here we are in December and a couple of weeks before Christmas, and we were just talking about Christmas January. I mean, January was like a couple of months ago, and we said it's gonna be Christmas soon, and here we are at Christmas time.
Faster and faster.
Yeah,
it just keeps coming.
So Jackie, what's happening in South Florida?
Everyone's getting ready for the holidays. The weather, of course, is warm. Most days we really haven't gotten an extended cool spell yet. So just like every rest of the country, getting ready for the holidays, trying to stay safe.
Yeah, I recall living in South Florida. We got 68 degrees. We were bundled up like it was snowing outside.
Absolutely. People need a reason to put on a coat and some boots.
Look,
break out the leather.
At 68 degrees.
68 degrees.
We were freezing.
Freezing, okay? Don't get below 65.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, fur coats, puffer coats, and everything else.
But here we are in other states now, braving this 32-degree weather, and many parts of the country, it's much colder, much colder. But Jackie, I do want our audience, to donate to us. for the holidays, and the holidays are almost over, and we're going to say, consider us, because some of y'all make a lot of money. You're trying to figure out where you're going to not pay some taxes. So I get it.
I
So,
know, especially if you're getting ready for taxes. I mean, you're writing it off. Certainly, you know, those who listen on a regular basis would consider this a worthy cause.
right.
You know, we would really love to be giving out gift cards as we did last year. And, you know, we're always looking for those people who are not going to be in line at other places. So I really would encourage people. You're going to write it off anyway. We are a 501c3. You do get a tax deduction. So this is the time of year. Definitely keep us in mind. Matter of fact, make us your number one choice.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. But
Thousand.
I sort of want to tell you, like, it's not really a joke. You know, an agency called me and said, you know, do you have children who need toys? So I called some of my people up and say, you know, like, do you need toys for the kids? And I got maybe 10 folks who said they need toys. I told me about 30 or more kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the company called, they said, okay, you can come pick them up and deliver them to the class. I told her, I'm not Santa Claus. So what am I going to do? So I decided what I'll do is next week, Jackie, on behalf of the company, is get a van, load those toys up, meet somebody in a Goodwill parking lot, or
Ride through the neighborhoods,
and give them 2 hours to come and get this stuff.
That's a great idea.
And they'll make everybody happy. Everybody.
That's a great idea.
And I don't have to
Ride
drive
through the neighborhood and pass it out.
and I don't have to drive my sleigh all night.
Exactly.
All
You
right.
and your sleigh can come home.
Most certainly. Hey, Jackie, let's get into the topic for tonight. And, you know, you and I were talking throughout the day about the topic, and it's kind of, well, I would say everything we do is kind of interesting. But, you know, we have to look at this from several perspectives. You know,
Mm-hmm.
grown-ups who still act like children. One was looking at it from this perspective of the necessity of doing that and
Mm-hmm.
mental health reasons why people do that and development reasons, right?
Right.
So we're going to approach that from those two perspectives. And we're not here to make fun of anybody, but some of it's going to be kind of humorous, I think. So
I think so too. And I do think, I'm not sure if it's in our notes, but I do think that COVID has, you know, really had an impact on this.
yes,
And what I mean is that I think a lot of young adults who would normally be out of the house, you know, right out of college, are back home. Older people who would normally be away from home are back home. So all of that's going to play into this a little bit.
but you know what I heard though, Jackie? I heard that this trend started before COVID. It started before the COVID.
It did. That's why I said COVID just kind of made it
Right.
worse. But it's been going for, I'd say, at least a decade, because
Well,
I have, you
yeah.
know, friends with older kids. I mean, they're telling me they're at home at 30.
Yeah. Well, some of them never left home, but
Right.
some of the data is kind of interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
it says, as of July, 52% of young adults resided with one or both of their parents. 52% of young adults. And of course, it was between the ages of 18 and 29. They were, and check, when you look at the number, it says 52%. We're
More than half. That's insane.
about 26 million folk.
And guess what? And that number is up from 47% in February. So that means the trend is not going another direction. The number is still rising.
And as we talk about this, we can talk about some reasons why that can be happening. But let's continue on with a little of this little data, and I'm gonna try not to give my little sidebar comments on them. But I have some understanding and some reasons why folk are doing this kind of stuff.
Right.
But it was kind of interesting, Jackie. The data shows that that this number is the sharpest that it's been in a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
A very long time. And they're showing the trend being more significant among white folk.
Yeah.
And I was
Both is the sharpest for the youngest.
yeah, I was
and white youth.
I was shocked. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, but I was shocked by that piece of data. And the Pew study did this study, Jackie.
Right. Very established organization.
Yeah.
And they were comparing when they said that the number was sharpest for white young adults, because it said in past decades, white young adults had been less likely than
Right.
their Asian, Black, and Hispanic counterparts.
Right.
you know, to be living with their parents. And of course, there are a whole lot of factors that we know go into that, and why they wouldn't have been, in terms of being easier for them to get housing and et cetera, et cetera.
Right. You know
But
what's,
let's not get off track.
you know what's interesting though? They said this number is it's the first time in 130 years. Now you know some political folk I want to try to blame Biden for all this.
Okay.
They'll
That
say,
would be a waste, since a lot of this data is before Biden's, you know,
they're gonna say
impact. But yes,
they're
there
gonna
are
say
some
Joe
people who are
Biden.
always going to politicize it.
That Joe Biden caused all this right here, but it's the highest it's been in 130 years. But there, as you said, there are a number of reasons why this is occurring. A
Mm-hmm.
number of, and we got to get into that. But let's go do some of the some more. Jackie, you mentioned the sharpest. This is the sharpest rise, right?
Right. For young adults and for white young adults. So they you know, mention again that white young adults living with the mothers or fathers grew more
Right.
than it did for the other ethnic groups.
But you know what's so interesting, Jackie?
Something's going on there.
You know, I think you and I both, and not only is you and I, but our audience also have experienced this. You know, with the economy, and not only with the economy, but the buying power. For instance, you know, people live together so they can save to buy a house. That was sort of it, right? But
Right.
a lot of it was, I'm gonna say a lot of it, but some of it was just this trifleness.
Right. Comfortable at home. Don't want to work. Don't want to put in the time. Don't want to put in the effort.
And the sad part about it, Jackie, and to our audience, is that some families, particularly mothers, encouraged it. And
Wow.
they enable their children. You know, like, you don't need to go out nowhere. But you know,
Oh no, can't imagine that. But you know, that gets into some of the other data we have and reasons why some people refuse to grow up or mature. And one of those, which might also be affecting the parents, is aloneness. They're afraid to be alone.
yeah, they well, you know, the thing about it is that it's kind of interesting that you go there instead of being alone. But those persons, and I'm always going to speak from a male perspective because I know people who go through this. And
Right.
it's amazing the number of males who don't want to live alone, and they marry women, and the women don't even know that. They have no idea that he has a phobia. You know,
Mm,
that I don't want to live alone, and not only that live alone, but you got to have the lights on. You got to have a night light for an adult.
okay, that's definitely another show.
Well, no, I'll share with you now. We're dealing with people who may have experienced some traumas. You know, as far as why they're at home, the reason why they're staying. So
Right.
there's a reason why people don't want to be alone. The question I would ask, like, why they don't want to be alone? And of course, as you dig more into it, you're going to find that there are some reasons. Some are troubling reasons
Some
why,
factors there. Yeah.
you know, they could have been abandoned by parents. They could have been left at the 7-Eleven and somebody picked them up. You know, it could have been a number of things. So the point is that people get into relationships and have these kinds of issues. Don't
In response to their trauma.
right,
Right.
don't share with anybody. The
Mhm.
reason why some adults act like children. Now we're getting to Jack, and you know we're going from, and I thought we should hang around a little bit on that economic piece, the economic piece, and the behavioral piece. The,
Right. You know,
the,
I think there are a lot. Well, you know, can't really put numbers to it, but I do think the fact that growing up, that some of them truly want to avoid growing up is part of it, because growing up is no more fun. You know, you grow up and you realize there is no spring break, there is no summer break, right? It's now 12 months out of the year, and so I think a few of them avoid that because they can be home. You
and food
know,
and food does not magically appear in the refrigerator.
well, it may
And
as well be magically appearing because they're
and,
not contributing to getting it
and the
there.
light, how they stay on all the time. I mean,
Right.
there's no bill because the parents don't say help pay the bills. They say, oh, our lights never go off. Well, first of all, they don't say the lights never go off. They don't have a clue that it cost.
Right. Absolutely.
Are you with me? So
Totally.
that gets into, Jackie, sort of the parenting piece of it. You know,
Hmm.
when our youngsters don't have living skills, they'll grow up to be adults
Without those
without
skills.
those skills.
Hmm. Hmm. Let's see what else we have here. So we're afraid of autonomy and aloneness. We're afraid of growing up because it's no more fun.
Well, not only
Um,
hang around for a second on each one of those. Hang around for a second.
okay.
Afraid of growing up. So the question would be, because I want us to talk about these things, not just give the list. The question is, why is it that people have this thing of not growing up? And people like that, and so do I.
Absolutely. And honestly, I can answer some of that. Uh, Responsibility. Want to stay stuck in a childhood where everything was provided to you. And as it said, everything was fun, you know? And I do hear that being expressed from a lot of young people.
Mhm.
So it might mean that as a society, we're not doing a good job of preparing our young people before they're young adults. This is a preparation that
Right.
perhaps should start in kindergarten and middle school. They should be working on budgets, and high school and certainly college, such that when it's time to actually grow up, this is not a shock. Honestly, in their defense, Dr. Miles, I can see how it would be a shock. You're
Well,
20 something years old and all of a sudden you have to start paying bills.
guess what? I'm 64, and my mom and dad was still living. I go back home too, but no, I wouldn't. But Jackie,
Nah,
on our
when you're a real adult, you need your own
yeah,
space
one of my Facebook followers, Jacoby, says, not to mention lack of academic education and vocational training,
and
which
opportunity.
which
Yes,
deals with employment, our
this
employability,
is true.
right?
This is true.
But there,
Hmm.
there's
Especially to live these glamorous lifestyles that they're seeing while they're spending all their time on social media.
well, there's some other reasons why people don't grow up. They don't grow up, and we're going to sort of like sway back and forth with the economic piece. Of course, unemployment rate. Of course, the inflation rate. Of course, and it's just the cost of living. And Jackie, I can imagine in South Florida. I mean, the cost of living is extreme there, and the industry is basically hospitality.
Absolutely.
Right? So
And
we
interestingly enough, hospitality is not really a high paying field
right.
for the majority of their positions. So I think the comment about education is key. Education, having prepared you, education or vocation, having yourself prepared to support yourself.
I mean, it's kind of interesting. While I'm sure this happens everywhere, but since I spent most of my adult life in South Florida, and this is one of the stereotypes. People used to joke about Islanders would come and stay 15 in a house, and then next thing you know, they own the whole block.
Right.
In other words, they had a strategy in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm talking about Haitian, I'm talking about Cubans, I'm talking about any folk from the island that came in and they huddled together. And I know there were all kinds of jokes and stereotypes like, oh my God, so many people living in one house. But they had a
Mm-hmm.
strategy, and it was an
Right.
economic
And
strategy.
and they strategized on helping each other buy a house.
Right.
So
It
we
was
get out one at a time, or we're able
right.
to save our money. And again, Americans tend sometimes, it's said it's a stereotype, but some Americans can be spoiled. This American way of life, especially I think the way we raise our children.
Well, yeah, and not just can be spoiled. I think we take a whole lot of things for granted. And the point is, especially when it comes to the area of economics. So we're talking about why some people never grow up. And we're talking about the economic impact of never growing up. And we're talking about some behavioral reasons
Mm-hmm.
why they don't grow up.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about fear, the fear of loneliness, the fear of what if I fail, the fear of I don't know how to do half of this stuff. And
Right.
the question, where did it all come from? And again, we know that fear is false evidence appearing real. So the question is, as a adult who is refusing to grow up for fear, where did it come from? Because they lived with somebody for many years.
Right. Yeah,
You
that's very interesting. Again, I think it speaks to exposure.
hmm
And like reading or anything else that we start early in life, I really do think we have to start, teaching independence, self-sufficiency early in life.
hmm
And I think where we see that, Dr. Miles, we don't see challenges with transition.
Right,
Those people who understand the role of a job,
right,
understand getting a checking account, understand a budget and paying bills are out there. It's
right,
those who don't get that, who haven't grasped it, who fear it, um, you know, and then of course, we don't want to put everybody in one basket. That's not the
right,
reason of
right.
everyone's home. Some people may be home because they are taking care of their parents.
Right.
You know, some
Right.
people are home because it is a good economic decision.
Well, that ain't refusing to grow up either.
Right. And that's not refusing to grow
Right.
up. In fact, it's the opposite. Because there
Exactly.
are lots of reasons within this big number that people can be home. But of
Hmm.
course, our conversation is primarily about those who are there because they're not growing up.
Right. Jackie, as we begin to take a look at this, at the data, and it shows that also it's very interesting that males are more apt to stay at home with parents than the females.
Doesn't surprise me, Dr. Miles.
Well, it does surprise. The data surprised me in that regard. That, and I began to think about, well, why does that happen? Why does that happen? And I'm going to rule out, taking care of parents, because mom's still cooking dinner every day for this person who's 30 years or older, and I'm not picking on moms. I'm saying that many of these are single heads of household, and she's saying that you are the man of the house. Are you with me?
I am. And again, society, we tend to, quote unquote, raise men differently than we do our young women. We teach our young women that they need to be independent. But, we also teach our young men that women are supposed to cook and, women are there to take care of you. So, and if you have a mom that is enabling that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we got to sort of like quote Jawanza Kunjufu, who says that mothers raise their daughters and love their sons.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was suggesting.
Raise their
They
daughters
raise their daughters, but they
and
love their sons.
And what happens is that because the mom loved him so much, and he attributes love with washing my clothes, cooking the food, cleaning it, and now
Of course, that's what
bring,
loving me is. My mom loves me. She does all of these things for me.
bring my food to me. And so, we're getting to this parenting thing now, but I don't think anything we talk about, we can't get around the parenting piece of it. We can't.
No, in multiple ways, how parents are enabling it, as well as, parents not recognizing the damage they could be doing to their children.
But it was kind of a interesting question that was asked, and the question was, when is it embarrassing to still be at home?
That is an interesting question, but I think it goes to why you're home.
Right.
And let's face it, I would think that after a certain point, being at home, failure to launch, so to speak, everybody needs to get out there. Get out there with some friends, 4 friends, get an apartment. But you do need an experience outside of your parents' home. Growing up, I think we were extremely anxious to get away from home, to have our, the desire to have your own space. That was one thing that drove me. I wanted my own apartment.
I oftentimes say, I was begging to get out, not because of anything particular, but Lord, when I started getting those bills, I
Begging to
understood
get back.
when they said, I ain't asking you to pay no bills, but at least respect my struggle.
Hello.
So the point is that, getting your own things, I think where you were headed to, Jackie, is that it teaches responsibility, it teaches independency. And what does independent means? I'm not depending upon anybody to do anything for me. What I don't do for myself, I won't get. All
And
right.
it also speaks to what your definition of what an adult is, what it means to be an adult. Is it
Well,
an age? Is it a behavior? What exactly does that mean?
well, I think there's a universal understanding of that, and I think what you're headed to is what is that person's perspective on it based upon what he was taught. Some people think that, you're 35, so you're grown. Keep saying, well, 30, the age don't determine maturity
At all. We know that firsthand. Age can be a very weak indicator of maturity.
because Jackie, if it did, we would not have this conversation tonight. Why grown folks still act like children? But yeah,
Exactly.
let's sort of like lighten up a little bit and deal with not only act like children, but sometimes dress like young people, and not only dress like young people, but try to do anything to keep that clock from turning. And I keep saying,
Yeah, and what I've often wondered, Dr. Miles, is where did they get the fear of the clock turning? Because certainly the clock turning means that you're still alive. So where did these ideas 40 was a big number for some people. 30 was a big number for some people. I'm thinking, really? You're crying over being 30 or 40? Like, what's the alternative?
The idea is because of social norms. What is
Taught behavior, taught beliefs.
right? Exactly. When I dealt with the elderly population, um, I would I would try to change the narrative, and change the narrative is stop preparing to die, start preparing to live. You're still
Right. I mean, you are still here. How many years are you going to be preparing
so
to die?
so why is it that we think that you get older, we gonna start getting pain? Well, it's true, we're gonna get some pains, but we gotta slow down, get in the rocking chair, and let ourselves just go with all the gray hair.
No. I'm going to tell you, Dr. Miles, I am going to try to enjoy every ounce, every breath. I'm going to try to just live every bit of
Jack,
it. So I'm going to not accept any of it.
let me tell you something. Um, I don't mind dying, but guess what? They gotta put a chain on me because
I'm
as
going
long
to
as
live well.
I'm gonna be breathing, I'm gonna be excited, I'm gonna be just as motivated. Now the thing about it, our brain doesn't really age until if we allow the Alzheimer's to get in, but we can even prevent that, some of
Right.
it. But the point is that the old saying was that you are the way you think.
Absolutely.
Well,
And some people literally, because they get this idea in their heads, they literally start preparing for death
I,
after a certain age.
I gotta tell you a joke. It's not really a joke. It really happened. It's so funny to me, and I keep saying, stop judging, folks. Miles, stop judging. Let me say something. You can. You've been in the grocery store and you see these folks from the back. You said you never think that when you turn around, they're 95 years old.
Right.
How they got the skinny jeans on, they got the blonde hair, whatever the hair they got. See, that weave does a whole lot for folks from the back.
Amen.
But Lord, turn around.
And you're like, whoa.
I'm saying, what happened? So
There is a way to age gracefully, both mentally and physically. And it really does start, like we're talking about, at young adulthood and understanding that, just as you didn't stay in kindergarten, you went to elementary. You didn't stay in elementary, you went to middle. You stay in middle, you went to high. You stay in high, you did a vocation or you did college. The same is true in life. You don't get to a place and stop.
let's just stay there for a second. Let's just stay there for a second. I just stay there for a second. Not only do they got the hair, what you call that stuff that with the net front? They ain't got the net front. They got
Yeah.
they got a headband on.
Yep.
And then they got the eyelashes that look like a rake.
I can't go there. I do not understand it.
So I'm saying to
The
them,
intense lashes. And you know what, Dr. Mouse, is interesting. I think a lot of people now are so accustomed to those lashes that they don't accept their looks without them. And I thought for sure this was not going to be permanent because the lengths are just excessive.
check some
But
people.
it's been around a minute now.
Some people lashes so long they blink their cause a tidal wave. I'm telling you, it's just. But not only that, but
They're giant.
you got the men. I mean, it's the same thing. From behind, they walking fast now, and they get out. I turn around and they 90 years old. Now I'm not picking on year old because I hope I get there. But
Amen.
my point is that I'm not saying you should act a certain age. You act the age you feel.
Amen.
But also try to temper it. It's time out for you in the skinny jeans.
Let's not try to be 13, And Dr. Mouse, honestly, for fashion, I'm going to say that people need to, determine what looks good. And I don't want to use the term appropriate. I know we're trying to avoid that.
I'm saying young.
But what looks right, not just, on you, but for your lifestyle, for, your circle. I mean, are you a 60-year-old hanging out with 20-year-olds? It could be a problem.
Well, hey, I learned from them, so I don't know if it's a problem. But
again, what we're talking about, if you're 60, you can learn from them and they can learn from you.
But
if you're stuck there,
and the point is also if you're going out with them,
right?
Talking about that kind of social interaction.
Of course. Are you delusional at the end of the day? That's what we're talking about. Are you delusional about, your phase in life? And we're not assigning it. We're not saying what it has to be. If your life at 70, let's say, is that of a young person because you have that energy and you have that lifestyle, then live that lifestyle.
In other words,
make sure it's consistent.
In other words, live your truth. And your truth is whatever
Live
you,
your truth. Exactly.
right. Right.
Very
Check it.
well said. Live your truth.
They were saying that some reasons why folk don't grow up is because they don't have any good examples of adulthood.
Let me see. You're not growing up because you don't have any good examples of adulthood. I can't really support that. There are lots of good
Well,
examples of adulthood. There are
but
adults
no,
everywhere.
let's be careful now. It's not for you to support now. It's their beliefs. It's their belief. And for instance, if they're in an environment, Jackie, where they have not, like some people say, I don't get married because nobody in my family was married. And that wasn't something we did. It was our norm to be single. It was our norm to date and never marry nobody. We went 25,000 years. So
I got you.
yeah. And so the thing is that um, a lot of folks say, well, I'm gonna be single and stay with mom now because I saw what happened to my family. My dad divorced her,
Right.
and all those kind of things. So
Yes.
I do
And
think,
people are, to your point, unilaterally rejecting marriage
yeah.
as an institution, as a desirable option.
But you know what's so interesting though?
So I think that's keeping a lot of people at home with mom and dad,
But you know what's
mom
interesting?
and or dad.
Let's talk about this because the data shows. I almost fell out the chair. Is that they are choosing to live with mom and dad, ready, instead of their partner.
Yeah. And you know, in that defense, one is comfortable, one is familiar, one is already accepting.
Well, with your partner is
Where,
not.
well, no, you have to get a partner first, and then that you have to know if that partner extends all those things to you that mom and dad do.
No,
Unconditional love.
let's talk about it now. Now, what the data say, it didn't say that they were single without partner. What it's saying is that they're staying with mom and dad instead of staying with, which means that they have a partner, but they chose to be with mom or dad, living with them versus their partner. So
That's unusual. I mean,
it implies they have a partner,
and
but
then to not want to be with them.
right, they chose to stay with mom and dad. And I can understand why. Guess what? I ain't gotta be responsible to you. And also, if I stay with mom and dad, I can go home.
Without a whole lot of fanfare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
But
very.
it's still, even with those rationalizations,
Mhm.
it is still a failure to launch. It is still not accepting a certain amount of responsibility and accountability, because you can want all those things, but still grow up and have your own place.
Well,
I think
mhm.
economics, again, becomes part of that.
Jackie,
It's more feasible to be home. And
yeah,
that part, I don't
you know,
deny them.
we can say that, but guess what? That means that somebody allows it, be it the partner or the parents, and the partners and the parents can be in agreement that the best place for him or her is to be at home. And even some parents would even support, if she don't treat you right, you can always come back home, or if he don't treat you right, you always come back home. So and again, it's not for us to judge whether it's right or wrong. We're
Right.
talking
Because
about
it's such an individual situation.
the reasons why people do this stuff, why they do
Right.
this. I thought also that one of the other reasons people refuse to grow up is because of vanity.
Well, that's one that they're going to lose, because you are going to grow old if you're blessed. You are going to change your appearance. So that could be a losing battle. But yes,
Well,
that's definitely
you know,
listed as one of the reasons people don't want to grow up. They,
well,
they want to stay 16, 18, 21 forever.
but Jackie, the other thing too, and I'm going back now to economics. Guess what? At mom and them's house, I can work for minimum wage and live a pretty good life because I ain't gotta pay nothing. If I had my own place, that means I gotta do more. In other words, are you with me?
Absolutely.
So
Look,
it's
at mom's house, I can earn a good wage and live the high lifestyle.
live the
It ain't
high like
always low income.
live a high lifestyle, but don't own nothing.
Right. Well, who knows? They might be. I do know people at home driving Alfa Romeos and nice cars, traveling frequently because they don't have
the responsibility.
mortgage, rent, lights, cell phones, cable, electricity. They don't have any of that to deal with.
Jackie, that's not something. They had that stuff. They're getting bootleg, so they ain't gotta pay for it.
Somehow, this is absolutely correct.
So, so this vanity part is that I think I'm too much. In other words, I ain't gonna spend my money on things that I need. I'm gonna spend my things on things that I want. My money on things that I want. So I can't be tying my money up paying no $200 a month for rent. I can sleep in mama's. I can sleep in mama's in the
200.
bedroom. I can sleep in
Where
that
they
a
live.
twin bed. I can sleep in that bunk bed we had in that room and be fine.
Dr. Miles, you have to wonder about the adult mind that finds that acceptable. It's one thing if it's necessary.
Right.
It's another thing if it's just a choice and you find it acceptable. So,
Right.
yeah.
But that goes back to the point of, for some folk, it's environmental. But I want to, I'm kind of like sticking now on the behavioral side too, is that when we talk about things that people go through that causes them not to grow up.
To freeze in time.
And Jackie, I really do think that parents play a big role in this. I'm talking about grown parents got grown children.
Absolutely.
And the thing about it, Jack, is that the person comes back to the house where the parents stayed with no apparent plan. No, I understand coming back saying like, I'll be here for a year, 2 years.
Right. I'm working on this. I'm working on that. I'm in school. I'm trying to whatever. And we know that people do that. But when you're just back.
Jackie, them jokers come back and say, I'm staying till y'all die so I can get this house.
Well, guess what? You're not going to get the house when they die because they don't own it yet.
But you know, it's just so, yeah, and what we're seeing though, Jackie, and throughout the generations, especially now, that we mentioned the norms, we mentioned how the mindset is changing. And the mindset has changed from, when I sent my kids to college, what I told them was that they wasn't coming back to stay with me. I packed all their clothes, winter, spring, summer, fall. Took it all
with you.
They asked me, have you lost your mind? I said, nope. I said, you're only coming home for spring break, winter break. You're not coming to live with me anymore. But the mindset has changed. The mindset is, this is always your home, which is fine. I get it. And you can come back. Don't look for a house where you can save some money staying with us. That sounds good in theory. But my issue is that you can only save if I know you're saving. So there's no accountability.
And typically, Dr. Miles, you're going to be saving for a particular cause. I mean, even if it's to build your nest egg, right? You're saving for a reason, but it all goes back to having a plan. And those who don't have plans are often the ones who, have failure to launch.
Right. Adults who act like children. And I say, Jackie, ready? You can't act like a child unless somebody treating you like one.
Amen. Well, that's where it goes. There's now, to take us back to the facts, there is now less stigma around living with your parents into your 20s, according to a new survey from TD Ameritrade.
It's amazing. But, just Jackie, even with the 20s, I like the 18 to 20. I can like 18 to 25. I get it because it's still in college, that kind of stuff, But we talk about 35-year-olds.
Well, listen, you asked that question, when is it embarrassing? Our research says at age 28 is when it starts to get embarrassing.
It ought to be.
As a parent, I cannot imagine living with my 28-year-old. Dr. Miles.
Now, okay, let's break that down a little bit. We cannot imagine living with our 28-year-old or our 35-year-old or 40-year-old without them having a plan. But these jokers ain't got no plans.
Exactly, and they don't have plans to have a plan. Okay? This is an indefinite plan. This is as long as I can. And often, Dr. Miles, a lot of them are moving out when they have mates, when they are, seeing someone. They're just home. So what you're doing is you're going from, mom and daddy's house to living with someone else and at least sharing expenses. You and I got up there on our own, but I don't know that many kids do that anymore. Get their own apartments. They're just not doing it.
Well, they're not doing it, and in some cases, the economy doesn't support them doing. We get it. I think our goal, what we're saying about all this, is at least have a plan.
Right. A 1-year plan, a 2-year plan, a 5-year plan, but have a plan. And then act on your plan. If you're saving, then save some money.
Right.
Don't
the,
have not have a plan and be broke even though you're working and living at home and you're still broke.
That's an issue.
It's an issue.
Adults who refuse to grow up. Hey, let's open up to our audience. Do you all have any ideas or thoughts about? I know someone.
Are any of them living? Adults living at home or adults living with their adult children?
Or is it you?
Yeah, let's get some defense of this behavior because we didn't exactly paint it in a favorable light.
Let's get this in our chat box. Let's get that rolling. On what are your views on some adults who refuse to grow up? I think one of the points we just made is that you can't act like a child and somebody's treating that way. And we also pointed out some reasons why people still want to live at home, like afraid of loneliness and growing up no more fun. One thing I've heard this, Jackie, a lot too, and it's kind of amazing to me. Now, Jackie, I'm gonna tell you now. I talk about how old I am because I ain't hating. Jackie,
Right.
I'm 64.
Mm-hmm.
So a 60-year-old who's still at home with their parents.
Wow.
And the person is not taking care of the parents. You ready? Ready for this one here? The parents are still taking care of him.
Insanity.
And I'm saying
that is dysfunctional at that point, Dr. Miles. That's way dysfunctional.
Ask to borrow $20.
Right.
And mama says, no, you don't need 20, you need more, just in case you get in trouble out there. Here's 100.
Oh my. Definitely enabling. Won't let them stand on their own 2 feet.
Well,
and that's how we get a lot of adults behaving like children, our topic tonight. That's how it happens when they're just not allowed. Some generational information. About 1/3 of Gen Z members said it would be embarrassing to live at home at age 30 and older, while 44% of millennials said the same. 45% of parents agreed. So
let's go back to your place. I'm at my mama's house. What?
Okay, I'll call you. Not. No, unless you have a legitimate reason. And again, I don't want to, appear that we're totally against being home. Sometimes people take care of their parents. Sometimes they're home, but they are the financial providers.
Right.
So we want to point that out. But we are talking about those who are not doing that, who are not growing up. Basically, that is the topic tonight. Adults who do not grow up, and all the different reasons and things that contribute to them being that way.
Jackie, now we know somebody like this right here now. Don't you have a friend who's stuck in the glory days?
Stuck in the glory days. I think I have quite a few.
They 95 years old and still talking about college. I said, wait a minute, that's been 50 years ago.
Yep.
They're just stuck in it. You remember when we were in high school? Wait a minute, hold on.
You want to know what's funny? On my end, I can barely remember college. When I talk about how long ago it was.
That's very specific. Do you recall we did at the gym on January 26, 1969? I said, listen, I can't recall what happened in 2001.
2001, 2021 could be a stretch.
Well, I should have said that. You see how my mind is messed up. But the key is that people get stuck in the glory days. How things used to be. Mm-hmm. How things used to be. But also, Jackie, on the other part of this, some people are afraid of growing up because they see the end of the pendulum being death.
Yes. Again, I have to go back to preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And don't you pointed out earlier that maybe they're not seeing models. My thought is, aren't you seeing enough?
Right.
I mean, you do see people going to work every day, no matter where you are, even if you're sitting there watching them on TV. You do realize that work is a part of life. And I don't mean 9 to 5. Maybe you started your own company. By all means, do what you love. But growing up is natural and unavoidable. And so when that is circumvented for any reason, Dr. Miles, any reason is a bad reason
Yeah,
not
I
to grow
agree.
up. It's
I,
a bad reason. And I hope from tonight's session, people will start to ask the questions about themselves, maybe about some loved ones, maybe some cousins.
right.
Are we growing up? Are we preparing this person for life?
Well, Jackie, I want to say that Evelyn is on tonight, watching us on Facebook Live, and also a cousin, her name is B. She's in also Mississippi, watching us live. So we have a lot of folk who are really tuning in tonight, and of course, our regular Facebook, our regular IG followers are on. So we appreciate each of you all, and we hope you make some comments before we log off tonight. Some comments about what we're talking about. All right. So I was plugging in my charger because it's my battery was going down. But the other
Yeah.
thing we didn't talk about is some of the personality disorders. But Jackie, I'd be remiss not to talk about traumas. That's one of my specialties. And we talked about this before, Jackie. Her name is Chanel. My name ain't B. My name is Chanel Davis. I said, okay, I got you. My apologies. But but I said that when a trauma occurs, the person stops growing emotionally, right? At the age of. So, Jackie, if a person is 35 years old and they have untreated trauma that occurred at 10, what's going to happen?
Right. They're going to grow up to be an adult with untreated issues.
Yeah,
Well,
emotion.
no, let me rephrase that. The point is they're not growing up to be an adult.
Right.
They're growing older, but staying in their childlike mentalities.
Right. And I'm going to say it like this way, that chronologically, when you mean age, they're getting older. Developmentally, mind, guess what? It ain't happening.
And then, a point you made earlier, a lot of times people are in relationships with people who are simply have not developed emotionally, do not have the capacity to, interact in a relationship on an adult level for many reasons, and can be unaware of it. I think, that plays a role in a lot of the single households, single with children, because you're dealing with people who don't have that capacity.
Well,
and of course, we're determining that too late.
Well, I'm going to say, Jackie, I hear you. And I'm going to say, don't have the capacity because we all have it. They've not developed it.
Right. That capacity has not been developed. And that's where it gets back to parents sometimes, as you pointed out. Sometimes parents play a role in that.
So then, Jackie, what happens if you have someone, who
still want to move on?
Still acting like a young person, and they should not be.
Sometimes I think it's necessary to help people set a plan. You know, and I've heard of friends doing this. You have 12 months from today to get a plan together to do what you need to do. And just like we were saying, this year going by fast, sometimes 12 months seems like a long time, but that is really helping someone get a solid foot. This is time to put your money aside, time to determine what your living expenses are going to be and be prepared for it. But sometimes you have to help people with that.
And you have to decide as a parent, how far are you going to go? And you got to prepare that adult, which you should have prepared as a teen, to be able to live and survive without you. And
right, because if it goes the way it should, they will be without you one day.
Right. And not to be dependent upon others for what you can do for yourself.
Right.
So, hey, this has been a very interesting topic.
That's a tough one. I mean, I think that's a follow-up, because I think for many reasons, there are a lot of parents who are struggling with that today. So how to release your adult children could be another topic.
Now, this is another topic also. When it ain't the young person's fault, when the parents make you feel guilty, I'm getting older now, I need you.
Yeah, that's just unfair. You really should want your children to go out and experience that.
And Jack, and she's still going out to the casino. I'm getting older. Getting older.
She's at the casino, but that's why she needs you home.
But I need you here to help me out.
Somebody got to watch the house.
I look to you, and it's Jack, but this is real.
It is real.
I took care of you when you was little.
I know several scenarios of that. It's very real.
Take care of me. No, you need to get you a spouse or somebody else, and allow your children to have their own lives. let it go.
Another factor that, stunts growth when people aren't allowed to.
But yeah, it's like we're really getting fired up now. It's time for us to go.
Of course.
But I'm telling you something. It's really a sad situation when parents don't allow their kids to grow up and make every decision for them. And here they are now, 45 years old, and you still trying to solve their problems.
Well, let's face it, just like with other developmental things, there comes a time when, developing beyond it is going to be very difficult. So, I mean, if you've lived a certain life for 45 years, it's going to be kind of hard for you to change. And the reality, Dr. Miles, is that you also don't change when you get in that relationship, because you really treat that person, that relationship, the same way you did that parent.
Exactly.
And you have those expectations.
Parents who...
That's why you have to be, as you said, a little concerned if you meet someone and say, let's go to your place, and the answer is, oh, I live at home, and they're over 30. You gotta start to wonder, what are you dealing with?
Not just live at home. Now you're 35 years old, but we gotta chip in. Can't make no noise. What?
I'm sorry, repeat that, Dr. Miles?
You have to tip in, don't make no noise.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, anyway.
And so, why does a person stay with somebody like that?
Yeah, I think what we're kind of saying is a lot of times they don't. And again, that contributes to why those people stay home. Because,
Jackie,
and I would encourage everyone to pay attention to those signs.
I hate to tell you the reality of this, but we said that mostly men are more apt to stay at home with their parents than females are.
Okay.
Jackie, the unfortunate thing is that many females are willing to
support those males.
Support that kind of behavior. Oh, you needed some sneakers? I'll get them for you. You need a haircut? Oh, I'll pay for it. You need to use a car?
Society has made that attractive.
Well, I ain't gonna give me. Maybe society has done it, but I just think that personal responsibility has not been taught, and being enabled occurred by not only your parents, but by everybody who's around you. He's right. So let's just take care. I don't want to just say he, because females do the same thing. He or she is just so. But let's just help them out a little bit. Well, you've been helping 15 years. They've been in your house 15 years. They're now 45. So, but at the end of the day, it is not my decision what people do in their households. It is not your decision. We just gave your perspective. Some reasons why some folk never grow up. And
it's scary.
I kind of suspect, as I'm doing this, that some folk never grew up because some of their parents never grew up. I'm done.
Very good point. Multi-generational failure to launch.
It is. I'm telling you.
Multi-generational failure to launch.
Okay. Can I say one more thing, Jack? We're running out of time.
Of course.
If you want to talk about what your mom and them did, your kids did not leave home in the olden years because they would stay there to help work the fields. The more people at home,
that was survival. That was survival, but it certainly does not play a role today.
But the Joker's staying with you, and you paying a lawn service guy. All right, it's been great, y'all. He's still at home with you, but you got to pay for lawn service.
At home all day.
Exactly. Okay, all right. Hey, folks,
yeah. You know what? It takes you back to the topic, Dr. Miles. Adults who did not grow up. We can look at all the angles, but at the end of the day, that's what we have. Adults who did not grow up.
Hey,
it's
folks,
just not possible.
We love y'all too much to offend you, because I know some of y'all got some grown folks staying in y'all house. I know you do, because you might have quiet tonight. You might have quiet. You got some grown people staying in your house, and some of y'all know how to get rid of them.
Amen.
And you can get rid of them. Do like my mom told me. All grown folk need their own house.
It's a statement of fact.
Jack, it's
a statement of fact.
Jack, it's been great. You know that next week we're not going to be here. We're going to be celebrating the holidays.
Holidays.
So on next week, Tuesday, we're not going to be here, folk. We'll start up right after Christmas. I think that's the 28th. Tuesday the 28th, I think.
Are we doing the 28th?
We are doing
that. Off for 2 weeks.
Wishful thinking. Because what we're doing after Christmas, Jack, we're doing the topic on molestation.
Oh,
And we're doing the
okay.
topic on molestation and why communications is important. And we said we're going to do that because a lot of that occurs during the holidays.
During the holiday season. It's
Right?
sad, but it is true.
On a lighter note, we wish each of you all a very, very Merry Christmas. And we say just don't forget the reason behind the season.
Amen. Do not forget, reach out. Just go online right now, and while you're here, while you're thinking about it, do that contribution. To the Willie Miles Children's Foundation. You can cross that off your to-do list, and then you can go on and do other stuff and enjoy the rest of your holidays.
Hey, the website, get your pens ready. While you're getting your pens ready, get that credit card out. Ready? thechildrensfoundation.net. Hit that $100 donation for $100. Or
Of
even
course, you're going to feel so good about sewing back into that which you received from. It goes to an important cause. We continue to talk about the topics that most people won't talk about.
Right.
But we know you have a therapist and an educator. We know that people need to talk about these things.
And that's why we call it, Let's Talk About It.
Let's talk about it.
Listen, but we're going to go. We're running out of time, and we want our editors to start having a fit. Like I said, this is kind of funny. People talking about, Dr. Miles, why would you come on? You'd be looking all strange, and you'll be saying nothing. Because what you're seeing is a raw footage. As soon as we finish, it's actually uploaded to these platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. If you want to see a very beautiful version where I only start talking, go to our YouTube channel. We have almost 100 videos there, folks. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to us, and you'll see all the wonderful techno work that we have done that our editors are doing. But when you see us on Instagram and Facebook, you're seeing it live. So everything that when you see me scratch, I'm scratching for real, folks. Eczema. I'm scratching.
And guess what? It's great binge watching for the holidays. You're going to be up for a few days. Just watch all the shows. Trust me. Very informative as well as entertaining. Instead
of watching As the World Turns. Hey, we finished, y'all. Hey, have a great holiday season. Have a merry one. And don't forget the reason for the season. Jackie, I'll be talking to you, though. But everybody else have a great, great, great holiday season. Merry Christmas to y'all.
Good night, everyone.